A few days before my wedding to the third prince, he changed his mind and decided to marry my father's concubine's daughter, Vivien, instead. My father was overjoyed. He brought Vivien into our household and registered her under my mother's name, declaring her to be my legitimate younger sister. The third prince said to me, "Your reputation precedes you as the exemplar of noble young ladies. Your father serves as Secretary of State, and your grandfather is the wealthiest merchant in the southern provinces. Even if you don't become my principal wife, no one would dare look down upon you. After 3 months of marriage, I will surely invite you to enter my household as a secondary consort." What he probably didn't know was that years ago, when his mother, noble consort Grace, had gone to great lengths to arrange our betrothal, it wasn't because I was the finest among noble ladies, nor because of my father's official position, but because my grandfather was indeed the wealthiest man in the southern provinces. After hearing his words, I promptly broke off our engagement the very next day. Finding another husband wouldn't be difficult at all. After all, he wasn't the only prince vying for the throne. On the day Vivien entered our household, I was embroidering my wedding dress, needing only one final stitch. The dress had been sewn stitch by my mother before her passing, with only the phoenix's eyes left unfinished. Just a few more stitches and this magnificent phoenix would be ready to soar. "Miss, the third prince has arrived," announced Grace, lifting the curtain at my door. Prince Sebastian was my betrothed, and behind him followed a young woman. When I looked up, I saw someone so delicate she seemed ready to wilt at the slightest breeze. Sebastian guided her forward, saying, "Vivien, this is your elder sister. Don't be afraid." The girl called Vivien curtsied timidly. "Greetings to my elder sister." I set down my needle and looked at the third prince. "Your Highness, my mother had only one daughter. Where would this sister come from?" Sebastian smiled gently. "I met Vivien several months ago and later discovered she was your sister. Your father has just brought her into the household and was about to tell you. Vivien is younger than you, with a timid and shy disposition. Please look after her." I stood up. Matters of bloodline can be significant or trivial. If she truly is my sister, naturally my father will open the ancestral shrine and inform the clan. I'm merely a daughter here. I have no authority to make such decisions. Tears welled up in Vivien's eyes. "Your Highness, does my sister dislike me? Perhaps I should return home." Sebastian held her close and glanced at me coolly. "Helena, what are you doing? I told you Vivien is timid. You're frightening her." A maid from my father's courtyard entered. "Young miss, the master has just opened the ancestral shrine and added the second young miss's name to the family records. The second young miss is now called Vivien Helena. The master says the sisters should love each other dearly, and the elder sister should be more considerate of the younger, as she's still so young." Vivien's tears turned to smiles, and Sebastian pinched her nose affectionately, coaxing gently, "Now you can rest easy. I promised you the day we met that I'd ensure you could claim your rightful place in the family. You're now the second daughter of the secretary's household. No one can look down on you anymore. Moreover, Lord Helena has said you'll be registered under Helena's mother's name, making you a legitimate daughter as well. In the future, when you become my princess, no one will dare question your status." My heart sank. "What do you mean by these words, Your Highness?" Sebastian acted as if he'd just remembered. "I've fallen deeply in love with Vivien at first sight. I think, with her gentle nature, if she entered the household as a secondary consort, she'd surely be bullied and taken advantage of. I've been thinking we should switch your positions. She would be the principal wife, ensuring no one would dare mistreat her. Helena, your character is strong and your manner impeccable. As a secondary consort, you'd handle everything perfectly. This way, the sisters would live in harmony. It couldn't be better." My face paled. "You wish to break off our engagement? Our wedding was only days away." Sebastian laughed. "How could it be breaking off the engagement? You'd simply change from principal wife to secondary consort. Helena, rest assured, your father is the Secretary of State, and your grandfather's family possesses wealth rivaling the kingdom's treasury. Even as a prince's secondary consort, no one in the capital would dare slight you. Once we're married and Vivien knows nothing of household management, you'll still oversee everything. You'll remain the mistress of the house, while our dear Vivien can only be a pampered little songbird. Vivien buried herself in his embrace, protesting shyly, "Your Highness, don't tease me so. You make it sound as if I do nothing but eat and sleep," which sent Sebastian into peals of laughter. I stared at Sebastian, wondering what filled his mind. Our marriage had been arranged years ago, and a prince's principal consort couldn't simply be exchanged at whim. This was a slap across my face, leaving me without a shred of dignity. Did he want to have his cake and eat it too, wanting this clinging vine of a concubine's daughter as his principal wife while keeping me, with my grandfather's substantial financial backing, as a secondary consort? His calculations rang clearly, but I feared they would amount to nothing but empty dreams. I slowly folded away my wedding dress. "Your Highness, how do you plan to explain this to your mother?" He smiled and placed his arm around my shoulder. "That's exactly why I say Helena is the cleverest. I think it would be best if you went to the palace to speak with my mother yourself. Simply tell her you feel unworthy of the principal wife's position and wish to yield it to Vivien. She's gentle and tender. My mother will surely adore her. If you're the one to say you disagree with being the principal wife, my mother won't blame you. She'll only praise your understanding nature." Each humiliating word reached my ears, chilling me to the bone. During our years of engagement, whenever he needed substantial funds for the succession struggle, to cultivate relationships and win supporters, my grandfather would spare no effort to help him. Silver ingots would arrive by the chestful through me to Sebastian. Each time, my grandfather would say, "Once His Highness ascends the throne, our Helena will be Empress of the realm. For Helena's sake, your grandfather would sacrifice anything." Over these years, the money spent on his behalf could have built a mountain of silver. Yet he proved to be nothing but an ungrateful wolf. I closed my eyes in disappointment. Such a foolish prince would remain worthless no matter how much support he received. Fortunately, he wasn't the only prince competing for the throne. I spoke in measured tones. "Very well. Tomorrow I shall take Vivien to see noble consort Grace." Noble consort Grace was fond of me because my background was truly enticing. I was her most satisfactory choice for daughter-in-law. But when I knelt on the ground, holding up the marriage contract to dissolve the engagement, her face turned to ice. "Noble consort Grace, the third prince has fallen in love with Vivien and wishes to marry her as his principal wife. I don't wish to disappoint His Highness or separate him from his beloved. However, my late mother commanded that I should only be a wife, never a concubine. Therefore, I beseech your Highness to withdraw your command and cancel my engagement to the third prince. His Highness says Vivien is obedient and gentle with hidden virtues unknown to others. Noble consort Grace will surely love her too. Please grant their heartfelt connection." With these words, I presented the marriage contract and kowtowed. Noble consort Grace's face turned livid as she looked at Vivien. "Vivien, Helena, raise your head and let me see exactly how gentle and tender you are and what hidden virtues others don't know about." Vivien lifted her head with a bashful smile. "Thank you for your Highness's praise." "Noble consort," Grace replied, "then you shall remain in the palace today, so I can properly observe just how excellent you are. Miss Vivien surely knows how to brew tea. Prepare a cup for me to taste." In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Vivien knelt before noble consort Grace's palace with the tea she'd prepared, trembling and unable to rise. Noble consort Grace looked down at her coldly. "A concubine's daughter wishes to be my son's principal wife. You'd sully my son's household even as a secondary consort if it weren't for your seductive wiles leading my son astray." Vivien was detained in the palace while I returned home. The moment I entered, my father's voice thundered, "Rebellious daughter, kneel!" A slap struck my face. My father's face was iron gray with anger. "Vivien grew up outside, suffering countless hardships while you enjoyed luxury and comfort in this household. Yet your heart is so petty that for the sake of a principal wife's position, you would frame her and cause her to lose face before noble consort Grace, leaving her kneeling at the palace gates. Are you satisfied now? How could I have raised such a vicious daughter? I'm telling you, the principal wife's position belongs only to Vivien. If you behave, the third prince might still grant you a secondary consort's position. If you continue this willfulness, you'll only be fit to be a lowly concubine. Guards, drag the eldest miss to the ancestral hall to kneel. She shall not rise until the second miss returns." The next day, word spread throughout the capital that the third prince knelt before noble consort Grace's palace, declaring his intention to marry the secretary's concubine's daughter as his principal wife. If noble consort Grace refused, he would kneel there until death alongside Vivien. Vivien wept like pear blossoms in rain. "Your Highness, do they all dislike Vivien? Is it only because of my humble birth? I don't wish to burden your Highness. I could leave. I don't want to make things difficult for you." Sebastian held her close, his heart aching. "Don't worry, I will marry you as my principal wife with all proper ceremony." Noble consort Grace finally relented because the third prince had collapsed from kneeling. The imperial edict naming Vivien as the third prince's principal wife arrived, along with Vivien herself. She looked at me kneeling in the ancestral hall with triumph. "Sister, in the future when you see me, you'll need to kneel and bow, since I'm the principal wife and you're merely a concubine, regardless of your birth or your grandfather's wealth." "Ha! I know you look down on me, calling me a concubine's daughter. So what? Father loves only me, and the third prince loves only me. Sister, when you see me from now on, you must address me as Your Highness, third princess consort." "Oh, and father says the dowry your mother left you must also provide a portion for me. I'm going to the treasury to select my dowry now. I truly don't know what to choose." She departed with smug satisfaction. Grace stamped her feet in anger. "Miss, they've gone too far. They stole your marriage and now want to steal the dowry your mother left you." Sebastian came to the ancestral hall to escort me out, full of consolation. "Lord Helena was worried about Vivien and perhaps punished you too harshly. Helena, I know you've always loved me. I promise you. Even if you're not the principal wife, I'll treat you with a principal wife's honor. When you enter my household as secondary consort, I'll ensure you have an 8-sedan chair ceremony." I looked at him. "Your Highness, our engagement has been cancelled. Didn't noble consort Grace tell you?" He looked at me with the same indulgent expression he used for Vivien, coaxing gently. "Come now. I know being a secondary consort feels like an injustice. Vivien is understanding. She says if you'd like, she could let you live in the main quarters while she takes the side courtyard. Would that satisfy you?" "I promise to treat you both equally and won't neglect you for being a secondary consort. You're the most reasonable person. Stop making a fuss." I ignored him and left the ancestral hall. Vivien stood at the courtyard gate, clutching Sebastian's hand tightly. "Your Highness, our wedding is in just a few days. Will you accompany me to the treasury to select some jewelry?" I stopped. The treasury? Those are things my mother left me. What right do you have to select jewelry there? Tears threatened to spill from Vivien's eyes. "Father said your mother is also my mother, and what she left behind includes my share. Sister, I know you're unhappy about me being the principal wife, but you can't disobey father's words." I called the guards. Except for me, anyone who dares enter my mother's treasury without permission should be reported to the authorities immediately. Sebastian looked at me. Helena, Vivien is your sister. Since this is your mother's dowry, she naturally has the right to half. You're being quite unreasonable. I laughed in anger, pointing at Vivien. Your Highness, your willingness to marry a concubine's daughter is your affair. But her mother was a courtesan from a pleasure house. If she wants a dowry, she can ask her own mother. If she wishes to be registered under my mother's name, I fear my mother would rise from her grave to settle accounts with my father. Tears fell from Vivien's eyes. Sister, I too am a legitimate daughter of the Helena household. Why do you torment me so? If you're angry because I'm marrying His Highness, I could remain unmarried for life rather than lose our sisterly bond, I replied mockingly. Sisterly bond? Quite unnecessary. If you wish to marry the third prince, that's your business. My engagement with him has been cancelled. We're free to marry whom we choose. Miss Vivien, please don't think too highly of yourself. Not everyone is like you, wanting to steal others' betrothed. Sebastian grew somewhat annoyed, frowning at me. Enough. Though I favor you, you must know when to stop. Being a prince's secondary consort is an honor others couldn't dream of. If you don't marry me, who else in the capital would dare take you? I looked at him coldly. He seemed to have forgotten there was more than one prince in this realm. Sebastian stormed off, and I heard his guard asking, Your Highness, what if Miss Helena refuses to enter your household? After all, having one's principal wife position stolen would be a tremendous humiliation for a legitimate daughter. Others would mock her. How could she maintain her position in the capital? Sebastian laughed coldly. She's merely a secretary's legitimate daughter. Once word spreads that she canceled her engagement with me, who else would dare want her? Don't worry. When I send the betrothal gifts, I'll give her some face. Women just need a bit of coaxing. Behind them, I clenched my fists. Such a disgusting man was better discarded. On the third prince's wedding day, the secretary's household was brilliantly decorated with lights and festivities. My father couldn't wait to display his finest treasures as Vivien's dowry, ensuring everyone knew of his favoritism. Sebastian arrived in princely robes, with crowds filling the street to watch the spectacle. I heard the third princess consort is a concubine's daughter. Who knows? Originally, it was supposed to be the eldest Helena daughter. Apparently, the third prince became infatuated with the concubine's daughter at first sight and insisted on breaking the engagement to marry her. Has the third prince lost his mind? Refusing a proper young lady to marry a concubine's daughter? I heard she's the daughter of a courtesan the secretary kept, formerly the top courtesan at 100 Flowers House. She must have exceptional skills in certain arts, if you understand my meaning. Poor eldest miss, having her marriage stolen just before the wedding. Well, there's nothing to be done. That concubine's daughter was at Precious Treasure House ordering jewelry the other day, and oh my, the way she acted coquettish had all the male customers completely bewitched. Everyone says the third prince is truly fortunate. The bride is coming out! The bride is boarding her sedan chair! Joy candies and coins rained from the sky as everyone crowded around to collect them. Imperial edict arrives! The third prince beamed with satisfaction. It must be mother asking father to issue an edict to give Vivien proper recognition. Everyone in the household knelt down. Vivien lifted her veil, letting everyone see her triumphant expression clearly. Secretary Helena's legitimate daughter, Helena Victoria, is gentle and obedient, possessing graceful virtues and wise benevolence. By imperial decree, she is granted in marriage to the first prince as his principal consort. May they support each other through life and enjoy 100 years of happiness. Let an auspicious date be chosen for the wedding ceremony. By imperial command. Everyone was stunned. Sebastian looked at the eunuch in disbelief. This is impossible! Helena was supposed to be my secondary consort. I was going to marry her after my wedding. I told my mother about this. The eunuch's expression remained stern. "Your Highness, mind your words. This is an imperial edict. His Majesty's will." I kowtowed respectfully. "Your servant accepts the decree and thanks His Majesty for his grace." Once the eunuch departed, Vivien glared at me fiercely. "Sister, what remarkable fortune you have. How is it that just after canceling your engagement with the third prince, you've connected with the first prince?" I held the imperial edict and looked at her. "Third princess consort, mind your words. This is His Majesty's imperial edict. If you have doubts, perhaps after your wedding when you enter the palace to pay respects, you could ask His Majesty personally?" Her face alternated between pale and flushed. Sebastian grabbed my hand. "Helena, how can you marry my elder brother? You know I intended to marry you. In just 1 month, I would have petitioned the palace for father to grant you the position of my secondary consort." This was exactly what I feared he might do. So that day after leaving noble consort Grace's palace, when I encountered the first prince, I made a deal with him. I promised to use my grandfather's substantial wealth to assist him, and he promised me the position of crown princess. The southern province's wealthiest family's resources had long been coveted by the empress and first prince. The empress had once approached my mother about having me marry the first prince, but mother had declined, saying I was already engaged to the third prince. Now that the third prince had foolishly chosen to marry a concubine's daughter and demote me to secondary consort, such stupidity was beyond salvation. When the empress heard the first prince's request to marry me, she was delighted, saying only, "Don't worry, on noble consort, Grace's daughter-in-law's wedding day, I'll petition His Majesty for an edict. Having 2 daughters from the Helena family become princesses would truly bring honor to their house." Thinking of this, I pulled away from his grasp. "Third prince, I am now the first prince's consort. Our former engagement is past history. We should maintain proper distance." Sebastian's eyes reddened. "You clearly loved me. How can you marry another man?" I smiled slightly, speaking loudly enough for him to hear. "Your Highness, what I love is supreme power and that exalted position. Since you cannot provide it, naturally, someone else can." Then I stepped back and spoke for all to hear. "Third prince, the auspicious hour has arrived. I wish you and my sister a harmonious marriage lasting until old age." The wedding coordinator stepped forward. "The bride must depart. Raise the sedan chair." Vivien left the house, but all the guests surrounded me with congratulations. "Congratulations, eldest miss. No, we should say first princess consort. You and the first prince are truly a match made in heaven." "Secretary Helena, what great fortune! 1 daughter marrying the third prince, another the first prince." My father's face was iron gray with suppressed anger. When evening came and all guests had departed, he smashed his teacup. "Rebellious daughter, what are you trying to do? 2 daughters from the Helena family marrying 2 princes. What are your intentions? Did you orchestrate this scene because you couldn't bear your sister's good fortune? On her wedding day, you deliberately created this disturbance." I looked at him. "Father, does my marrying the first prince bring you shame? This is His Majesty's imperial edict. If father disapproves, why not tell His Majesty you refuse the marriage?" Defying an imperial edict meant execution for the entire family. Naturally, he wouldn't dare, being too cowardly. He pointed at me. "Tomorrow you'll feign illness. In a few days, I'll inform His Majesty that you're gravely ill and unsuitable for marriage into the royal family. Let the first prince choose another consort." I dug my fingernails into my palms. "Father, I too am your flesh and blood. Do you so despise your daughter marrying the first prince that you'd rather defy the imperial edict?" He looked at me with disgust. "You and your mother are alike, full of scheming calculations that disgust people. Years ago, when delicate beauty begged your mother so pitifully to let her enter our household, your mother refused. She and her daughter had to live outside, and from childhood, Vivien had no father's company, mocked as a courtesan's child. All of this was your mother's doing. Thinking of my melancholy mother, I demanded with reddened eyes, "Was it my mother's fault that your delicate beauty sold herself to a pleasure house? You, a secretary, cannot marry a pleasure house woman as your wife. That's the law. Would you have my mother help you commit a crime that could destroy her? Your Vivien had no father? From childhood to adulthood, did she ever suffer want? You lived at that separate residence daily while mother died of melancholy. Wasn't that because of you? You enjoyed my grandfather's wealth and my mother's dowry to pave your career path. Yet you scorned her merchant family background as lowly. You were bewitched by beauty and infatuated with a pleasure house woman, yet blamed mother for not bringing her home. A person like you deserves neither to be a husband nor a father." My father was furious and raised his hand to strike me. I stepped forward. "Father, I am the future first princess consort. Do you dare lay a hand on me? Try it and see. When I ascend to the first princess consort's position, I'll ensure your precious daughter kneels at my feet begging for mercy. Touch me once, and I'll make her life worse than death." With these words, I turned and left directly. I knew he disliked me, but I hadn't expected him to be so ruthless for the sake of his beloved's daughter. Such a father was better discarded. The next day, I entered the palace to pay respects and encountered the third prince and third princess consort who were there for their formal greetings. Sebastian looked at me with reddened eyes. "Helena, why are you in the palace? Have you come to tell father you don't wish to marry? If you don't marry, I can help you." I stepped back. "Thank you, third prince, but that's unnecessary. I'm only here to pay my respects." Vivien looked at me with a triumphant smile. "Sister, you haven't yet paid your respects to me." The instructional matron beside her immediately stepped forward and forced me to kneel. "Someone come teach sister how to pay respects to a princess consort, lest she make errors in protocol when meeting his majesty. My principal consort need not pay respects to you." A gentle voice sounded behind me. It was the first prince, who helped me up firmly yet gently. The first prince looked at the third prince. "Brother, you should teach your new wife proper etiquette, lest she become a laughing stock." Sebastian saw Vivien's aggrieved expression and wanted to comfort her, but said nothing, only lowering his head. "Yes, elder brother." In the throne room, His Majesty, the Empress, noble consort Grace, and ladies from all the palaces were present. I knelt and paid my respects. The Empress called me to rise, smiling. Helena and the prince standing together truly make a perfect couple. She waved for servants to bring a pair of ruby pomegranate hairpins. These are His Majesty's gift. They look best on young ladies. Wear them on your wedding day for good fortune. May you bear many sons and grandsons for the prince. Noble consort. Grace looked at me with a face like green marble, then glanced at silent Vivien beside her, growing even more furious. She managed to suppress her anger and said, "Your Majesty, today third prince brought his princess consort to pay respects." Vivien quickly knelt. "Greetings to His Majesty, Her Majesty the Empress, noble consort Grace, and all the honored ladies." The Empress awarded her an ordinary jade bracelet and a set of women's moral texts. "Since you've married into the royal family, you cannot disgrace protocol. These moral guidelines and women's precepts should be studied carefully. When you have time, copy them several times." After His Majesty finished with us and left with the Crown Prince and Third Prince for state business, the ladies from various palaces began chatting animatedly. "My Secretary Helena's two daughters are truly remarkable, beautiful as flowers. The eldest miss is certainly more dignified, while the second miss is rather more alluring." One lady whispered, "How could she not be alluring? Consider who her birth mother was, that's their specialty." Noble consort. Grace's face darkened. Those who could read the room, seeing the Empress's delighted expression, quickly picked up the conversation. Let's hope the apple falls far from the tree. Noble consort Grace should assign third princess consort several instructional matrons, lest there truly be trouble that would shame the third prince. Vivien listened with an aggrieved expression, tears threatening to spill. I covered my mouth with a handkerchief and said quietly, Sister, don't waste your pitiful act in the wrong place. Your third prince isn't here. Vivien's eyes shifted. Then she said loudly, Sister, why do you mock me? Though you're the first prince's consort, you cannot humiliate your sister so. I'm merely unfamiliar with palace protocol on my first visit. Why must you laugh at me? Such transparent scheming was truly laughable. I immediately stood up gracefully. Your Majesties, please forgive any breach of protocol. My sister Vivien spoke loudly and lost her composure. I wasn't mocking you. I was merely advising that today, being the second day after your wedding and your first meeting with their Majesties, crying would be inauspicious. Moreover, the ladies were merely conversing, not criticizing you. If you weep now, wouldn't that embarrass their Majesties? The Empress looked at me approvingly, and the palace ladies exchanged glances, speaking even more boldly. Oh my, why is third princess consort crying? Did we say something wrong? The Empress spoke up. Your sister speaks correctly. Today is still the second day of your wedding celebrations. What dissatisfaction do you have with this marriage that makes you weep? Or are you displeased with us? Noble consort. Grace's expression changed dramatically. She immediately stood to apologize. Your Majesty, she simply doesn't understand protocol. Let me take her away for proper instruction before she causes more embarrassment. She glared fiercely at Vivien. Get out this instant. After hastily taking leave, she dragged Vivien to her eternal spring palace. When the first prince and I left the palace, we deliberately passed by Eternal Spring Palace and could hear scolding from within. The principal consort I chose for you was from a distinguished family, but you refused her. Blinded by lust, you married a courtesan's daughter and made us all a laughingstock. I've never been so humiliated in my life. The third prince could be heard defending her. Mother, please don't be angry. Vivien simply doesn't understand palace protocol yet. You can teach her properly. Vivien clung to the third prince's sleeve, weeping incessantly. I don't want to stay in the palace. Your Highness, don't you love me anymore? Today is only our second day of marriage. Please don't abandon me. Such behavior only further inflamed noble consort Grace's anger. This was nothing like proper young lady's conduct or imperial consort protocol. She clutched her chest in fury. Sebastian, if such a principal consort isn't properly educated, she'll cause great disaster in the future. Word spread that on the second day after her wedding, Vivien was detained in the palace by the third prince's mother for protocol instruction. Any observant person could see that Vivien had offended noble consort Grace, and noble ladies entering the palace to pay respects to noble consort Grace looked upon Vivien with mockery. The Empress was delighted by this news and sent for me to enter the palace for conversation daily. Sebastian intercepted me on a path where I was picking flowers for the Empress. Helena, why do you avoid me? I stepped back. Third prince, mind your words. I'm now engaged and cannot associate with men outside my betrothal. As third prince also has a principal consort, you should avoid suspicion. Sebastian pressed closer. What engagement? You were my woman, engaged to me. I don't consent to your marrying someone else. I looked at him mockingly. Your Highness, my engagement comes from His Majesty's decree. Are you saying you wish to defy the imperial edict? His eyes reddened as he stared at me. I don't believe you have no feelings for me. I refuse to believe it. You must be jealous. I told you Vivien poses no threat to you. She's currently confined in Mother's palace and can't even leave. Helena, let's talk properly. He grasped my hand tightly. Despite my struggles, I couldn't break free. My face flushed with effort. Your Highness, I'm your future sister-in-law. What are you doing? I'll call for help if you continue. He laughed. Go ahead and call. If anyone comes, they'll simply say we're rekindling old feelings. I'll take that opportunity to ask Father to grant you to me. Helena, stop being angry. These past days, Mother has scolded sense into me. Vivien truly cannot grace high society or bear the responsibilities of principal consort. I've told Mother I'll demote her to secondary consort. I absolutely must marry you no matter what it takes. Weren't we happy before? You always helped me strategize, plan how to cultivate talent, arrange everything for me. Now I know how good you were to me, Helena. I cannot live without you. I tried desperately to pull my hand away. He regretted now, but it was too late. However, the madness in his eyes alarmed me. I wanted to break free, but couldn't. Your Highness, what are you doing? A sharp cry rang out behind us. It was Vivien. She carried a basket and rushed over, her face full of confusion. Your Highness, you said you'd come for me today. Why are you here with Sister? Seeing him grasping my hand, she cried out somewhat frantically, Sister, His Highness is now your brother-in-law. How can you harbor such improper thoughts, trying to steal my husband? I know you've always loved His Highness, but he's married now. How can you be so shameless? Slap! I struck her across the face. Vivien, if you continue to disregard protocol, let me as your elder sister teach you proper behavior. Vivien covered her face. How dare you strike me? I'm a princess consort now, while you haven't yet married the first prince. You should pay respects to me, yet you dare hit me? I held my head high. Your arrogance and lack of manners bring shame to the Helena family name. As your elder sister, what's wrong with disciplining you? She rushed forward to strike me, but Sebastian stopped her. Stop! This is the palace. What are you trying to do? She's invited here by the Empress. Do you want to die? She shrieked. I don't believe that as a princess consort striking a mere minister's daughter, the Empress would dare scold me. She pushed Sebastian aside and lunged at me. Seeing her attack, I deliberately leaned backward and fell into the lake. She froze momentarily, then sneered from the shore. Let the water cool your head. I saw figures running toward us from the distance. I let my body go limp, choking on water as I sank. Sebastian's face went white. Someone help! Save her! A dark figure suddenly burst from nearby and dove into the lake to rescue me. It was the first prince. The commotion by the lake was tremendous. Both the Empress and noble consort Grace rushed over, arriving just as the first prince leaped into the water. The Empress clutched her chest, her face pale as paper. Quickly save them, my son! Noble consort. Grace's legs went weak. A matron supported her while explaining everything. She glared at the worthless third prince, then looked venomously at Vivien. Kneel! Vivien wailed, Mother! Helena framed me! That venomous woman fell in herself! I didn't push her! Sebastian was furious. Shut your mouth! Everyone saw you push her in. How can you be so vicious? She's your sister. You stole her marriage, yet she bore no grudge, but you wanted to kill her. The first prince carried me ashore. Matrons quickly brought a sedan chair and blankets to wrap me before carrying me to the Empress's palace. The imperial physician hurried over while the Empress only pulled at the first prince in worry. Quickly, change the prince's clothes and bring ginger soup. The Empress was truly enraged. She had only the first prince as her son, treasuring him like her very life. Now, because of Vivien pushing me into the water, the first prince had risked danger. Such madness! How can she bear the honor of princess consort? Noble consort Grace doesn't discipline her properly. Now she's not just shaming the third prince, but the entire royal family. Vivien Helena, for improper conduct and unworthiness as a princess consort, you are demoted to secondary consort and sentenced to kneel for 3 days. Vivien knelt before the Empress's palace for 3 days without food. Noble consort Grace was implicated. forbidden from leaving her quarters for 3 months for failing to properly educate her daughter-in-law, whose mad behavior nearly harmed the first princess consort and endangered the first prince. Without noble consort Grace's scheming and lacking my strategic counsel, Sebastian floundered like a headless fly. He deteriorated rapidly, bungling several important tasks and earning His Majesty's strong displeasure. Half a month later, I married the first prince in a grand ceremony, officially becoming the first princess consort. My grandfather placed all his contacts and resources in my hands. My grandfather looked at me lovingly. "Helena, I had only your mother as a daughter. Sadly, her fate was hard. She left you alone so young. Now, placing all this in your hands brings me great peace. Using these funds and connections, I paved the way for the first prince. His Majesty was extremely pleased with his recent work, praising him to the Empress. The prince has truly matured. After marriage, he's grown considerably. The couple lives harmoniously, which is reassuring to see. His work has become seasoned and efficient. The ministers all say he resembles me in my youth." Of course he had matured. My grandfather's entire network of capable people now served us wholeheartedly, working for the first prince and me with all their might. Meanwhile, after Vivien's demotion to secondary consort, Sebastian was quickly arranged by noble consort Grace to marry Margaret Chen, daughter of the Court of Justice minister. Margaret had been spoiled since childhood and was quite willful. Upon entering the prince's household, her first act was confining Vivien to a small courtyard, forbidding her to leave without permission. She told Sebastian, "Your Highness, hasn't she caused enough trouble? If she angers His Majesty and the Empress again, have you considered the consequences?" Thinking of Vivien's mistakes, Sebastian silently agreed. But Vivien wouldn't accept this quietly. While Margaret's guards were distracted, during a banquet Sebastian hosted for guests, she disguised herself as a dancer and performed her mother's famous piece that had once captivated the capital, Jade Lotus Beauty. With red-painted toenails, draped in gossamer silk and veiled, she danced to tinkling bells with bare feet in a lotus petal-shaped dish, mesmerizing all who watched. When a drunken guest, Prince Augustus, asked Sebastian for the dancer, Sebastian immediately agreed, but Vivien, expecting Sebastian to recognize her talents, instead found herself bound, gagged, and carried away to a carriage headed for Prince Augustus's residence. Only then did she become frightened, struggling to cry out despite being gagged. Upon reaching Prince Augustus's estate, she screamed that she was the third princess consort, but no one listened. Prince Augustus frowned. "Too noisy. Give her a dose of muting medicine so she won't cause trouble." After being given the drug that stole her voice, she was thrown onto Prince Augustus's bed, unable to call heaven or earth for help. The next day, Vivien became merely one of Prince Augustus's concubines. Unable to speak, everyone called her the mute concubine. Later, Vivien never appeared in the capital again. A few days later, servants at the third prince's residence noticed that food sent to Vivien's courtyard remained untouched. Upon investigation, they discovered she had long since vanished. As the succession struggle reached its climax, the third prince secured the commission to provide disaster relief in the southern provinces. However, instead of helping victims, he toured mountains and rivers, bought several beautiful concubines, spent lavishly, and nearly died in a riot by angry disaster victims. A southern scholar sent a petition to the capital accusing the third prince of negligent disaster relief, exploiting the people, and embezzling relief funds. His Majesty was furious and sent imperial investigators who confirmed the accusations with solid evidence. Enraged that countless disaster victims starved while his son exploited and embezzled funds, damaging public trust, His Majesty stripped Sebastian of his princely title, reduced him to commoner status, and exiled him to the northern frontier with no return without imperial decree. In the 36th year of the Yuan Sheng era, the first prince was named Crown Prince, and I became Crown Princess. That October, I gave birth to His Majesty's first grandson, Prince Edmund. His Majesty was overjoyed and declared a general amnesty. The following September, His Majesty passed away. The Crown Prince ascended the throne as the new emperor. I became Empress of the realm, and Edmund was named Crown Prince. The coronation ceremony and my enthronement as Empress were held simultaneously. The Emperor took my hand as we ascended the tower together to receive the reverence of all people. In spring's third month, the Emperor held my hand as we strolled through the imperial gardens, saying, "We should establish the succession early to prevent future siblings from harboring too many ambitions. We must tell them their elder brother is Crown Prince, and in the future, they must support their brother in protecting the realm and caring for the people." I smiled, squeezing his hand as I watched little Edmund stumbling ahead of us, and said gently, "Perhaps Edmund will soon have brothers and sisters to play with." The Emperor embraced me, watching Edmund ahead while kissing my cheek. The spring breeze brushed past us, and everything was full of vibrant life.